Good morning from Washington State University, Tri-Cities. My name is Lisa Kehokololi-Shower, and I'm the chair of the board of directors. I am starting our meeting this morning, March 7th, 2024, a day of committee meetings. And before we really kick off the day, I want to acknowledge the WSU locations statewide are in the homelands of Native peoples who have lived in this region from time immemorial. The university expresses its deepest respect for and gratitude toward these original and current caretakers of the region. As we work together today and tomorrow in our board meeting, all of our time together is available to be viewed on the YouTube live stream. A link to the live stream is available on the WSU Board of Regents website. Tomorrow, we will welcome public comment at this meeting at the designated time, Friday, March 8th, after our regular agenda items. If you wish to make a public comment and have not signed up yet, you can do so by using the online form at regents.wsu.edu, by emailing regents@wsu.edu, or contacting the board's assistant, Tracy Jordal. Public comments may be made in person or virtually. We ask that requests be received today by 5 p.m. The Regents will now hold an executive session to review the performance of a public employee and to discuss litigation or potential litigation with our legal counsel. This is the only time during our two-day committee and board meeting that will be closed. The executive session will conclude at approximately 10:35 unless it's extended by further announcement. If any action is taken as a result of these discussions, it'll be taken tomorrow at open session. So at this time, I would ask everyone except for legal counsel to please leave the room.
Well, just you.
All right, the Regents are back and we will now reconvene in open session and convene the Executive and Governance Committee. I'm going to go ahead and allow for a 5-minute break before we get started with the Executive and Governance Committee so that we can kind of get settled here. And then we'll be back on live stream on YouTube. Thank you.
Our next meeting, we want to leave for our discussion.
Good morning. And we are now headed into the Executive and Governance Committee. As stated in the WSU Board of Regents bylaws, at our regular meeting held after the first Wednesday in April of each year, the board will hold elections to fill the offices of chair and vice chair. The board shall elect a vice chair as nominated by the executive committee based upon the advice of the board and in consultation with the president of the university. The vice chairs shall then automatically succeed as chair of the board after 1 year, commencing on July 1st. The board may elect to extend the term of the chair or vice chair by a maximum of 1 additional year with no further extensions. So we are taking action. We will be taking action on the slate of officers. The executive committee has met, and we discussed actually in a session similar to this a year ago, the concept and idea of 2-year terms. So just to provide some context, and folks can remember Brett said yes to 2 years during a time period when WSU was in the middle of a pandemic. And the thought process was that as vice chair, Marty would step into the role. And when Marty did step into the role, we had other challenges that were facing us, and it made sense for Marty to stay in the role for 2 years. This time last year, we discussed the possibility of changing the bylaws to reflect a 2-year term for the roles of chair and vice chair. We chose not to move forward with that, primarily because of the different scheduling, and then there was light.
Still have some in flow.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. We can see each other. We need to remember to speak loud enough so we can all hear each other too in this room, but lights up. The idea was that with doing a 2-year term, it is challenging with our appointment process, which of course we don't control, and the timing of our appointments and our terms. So with that, I felt as though last year I was saying yes to a 2-year term, but it's actually not official. And so this is a great opportunity if anyone else would like to think about
You guys, we should do it.
this opportunity to serve in this role or to move Jen into the role of chair a little bit sooner. We can certainly do that. There are a lot of really great positives and just a few things that become challenges. So I want to make sure that folks also don't feel surprised that in the conversations that we've had as an executive committee, we have discussed a succession plan, which is what I know to be somewhat of the way in which boards operate, that following Jen, the next person to step into the vice chair role would be Regent Cerna. So that is a bit of the strategy and thought process. Again, I fully committed to a 2-year term, but the election is on a 1-year cycle. So we'll need to go through re-election for myself to serve in the chair capacity and for Regent Ramos to serve in the vice chair. Any discussions or other nominations?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It is an honor to serve, and it is quite a privilege to be at this university in this moment to help us navigate and to think about the future for the next 100 years. So, thank you. All right. If there's no further discussion about the elections that will occur at our next board meeting, then I will invite our Executive Director for Policy and Governance, Daniel Hess, to present the second future action item, which is a proposal of the Board of Regent bylaw updates. This is a future action item. It's the result of other discussions that we've had in terms of which fundamentally important action items the board needs to review that should go both in front of a future action item and an action item, and then allow some of the items that we do see to perhaps just go straight to action items. So I'll let Danielle.
Thank you. Good morning. This is a continuation of our efforts to streamline the meeting process and to make sure that meeting time is reserved and used strategically for the board to discuss and consider items that require additional consideration and discussion, and also just helping to expedite university decision making. We've got a lot of things that take a really long time to get done around here because we've got 2 meetings, and it's just, I think there was sort of a sense that that we could dispense with the presumption of a future action item requirement for a number of items. So a few months ago, President Schultz asked a couple of us to get together and to draft up revisions to the Board of Regents bylaws to eliminate the presumption that all agenda items have to be brought as future action items 1 meeting before they're brought for action to the Regents. So we brainstormed and we came up with a list of items that typically require more Board of Regents discussion and consideration. And then all others that are not on the list would go straight to action. In all cases, the board chair would have the ability to either send something directly to action or to say, no, we really do need a future action item on this one. So the list of items that would still require a future action item, they're in the write-up here: be tuition and fees, housing and dining rates, changes to university retirement programs, sale or lease of real estate, capital projects, system or campus strategic plans, athletics budgets, operating or capital budget requests for submission to the legislature, issuance of debt, and adding or abolishing an academic college, department, or school. So those are the items that sort of collectively normally, I think we decided to require more discussion and consideration. And so the future action item requirement is still appropriate for those. Everything else goes straight to action, including policy changes like this. If the board approves, we'll bring it for action at the April meeting. And there is a red line attached if you want to take a look at it.
Could you share some of the things that might be expedited and beneficial with this move?
Yeah, well, certainly all of the policy revisions like this, like a bylaws revision, a policy revision, the WAC rules. I've got a couple of those, got several, actually 4 today on the agenda. Actually, we might have 5. I think we have 5 on the agenda. And those are the kinds of things that could really go straight to action, I think, rather than take up 2 separate meeting times. So it's really going to clean up some of these agendas. There's a number of other items. I can't really, those are the ones that are sort of in my area that come to mind, but I think there will be quite a few items that we end up being able to take for action.
One of the ones that faculty really appreciate is that we can move forward on the degree programs and get those
Yeah, that's
approved
good, yeah.
on their way to NWCCU and get the advertising out as soon as possible. Advertising a month or 6 weeks sooner for us is an opportunity to bring in more students for fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the point of this is that we retain the ability for action and approval. We just streamline the process. So we're not delegating any additional authority.
Absolutely. Right. And you can, like I said, you can pull back at any time and say, nope, we want to talk about this some more. So.
Any other feedback or questions?
I just would say, I think this hopefully reflects the feedback that leadership got from the board, which is we want to be more strategic. We don't want to have a whole day spent on stuff that doesn't require maybe the engagement and bring the value of each individual board member's contributions to a particular topic. So I think we want to continue to ask ourselves, are we doing meetings that you all feel are effective? And this just represents a really good step. I think it's always a good idea, assuming this is approved in 6 months, to just do a check-in. Say, okay, we've now done several meetings with maybe a more smoother set of transitions. Does everybody like it? Do they feel we're discussing things enough? So we'll put that on the agenda, but I think it's not a bad idea just to see after a few months if people feel that we're rushing through stuff, or that we're able to focus on maybe more strategic items and a little less on some of the things that may be more mundane.
Yeah, we can always add or remove something to the list.
Yeah.
If we decide we need to make the change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this concludes the agenda items for the Executive and Governance Committee. So I will close that committee and I will convene the Academic and Student Affairs Committee, which is chaired by Regent Pika.
Thank you, Chair Shower. First, want to thank Regent McDonald, who stepped in for me for our prep meeting for this. So I had no voice, and thank you for doing that.
No, I'm always happy.
Almost
about
back.
extra.
We have a pretty straightforward agenda. Today, we have 3 future action items to review and an action item and some informational items as well. So I'd like to invite WSU Provost and Executive President Chilton to present the first action item, which is to discontinue the Bachelor of Science in Viticulture and Ecology on the Pullman campus. So
Thank you,
All
Regent
yours.
Pika. So yes, as Regent Pika mentioned, this is a proposal, it's a future action item currently. The regents could decide to move into action. But the proposal is to discontinue the Bachelor of Science in Viticulture and Enology on the Pullman campus only. And I don't know if you have this in your materials, the full proposal, but really the decision to discontinue to the degree was really to focus the resources on the Tri-Cities campus, where there is the greatest demand, the greatest resources, both human and physical resources. There was a comprehensive curriculum design effort with feedback from 2 industry surveys over the past 2 years, and the B&E faculty feel that this is really going to help their students have the most hands-on learning experience, focusing the resources here. I just want to check here. Looking at, essentially, we would teach out, I'm trying to see if there's any students currently in the program. I don't believe there are any in the program on the Pullman campus currently. And so this would take it off of the registrar's website so that students wouldn't accidentally sign up to the Pullman campus degree program and then find out it's not really viable in that location. This was approved by the Faculty Senate and also reviewed by the Provost's office. It was approved by the Faculty Senate on February 15th of this year. And this was proposed by the College of Agriculture and Natural Resource Sciences.
questions? I have one. Would there be any reason not to move this up to a future or to a action item tomorrow?
I don't believe so. I think it would just accelerate our changes to the catalog to make it clear. And this is high recruitment season. So if students do want to study B&E, this would really push them towards the Tri-Cities campus, I think. And I think that would be a good thing.
And there's no communications kind of materials that would lead someone to think in place right now that there would be that opportunity for the Pullman campus that we could.
No, we have not been advertising
Right.
the degree program.
Okay.
But we can't take it out of the catalog.
Right.
Let's discontinue.
Yeah.
So that's where the request to put it as an action item now is it would allow us to take it out of the catalog.
Okay.
So it would allow us to tie up the loose ends that
Yes.
might mislead a student if they dug far enough into our information. But it's not front line, but it is still behind the scenes. Discontinue that.
Okay. Any objection to that from any of the regents? So we will put that on the agenda for action tomorrow. Hearing none. Okay. Great. So Provost Chilton, if you would continue, and I'd like just to introduce interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Jenna Hyatt. Jenna has served in this role since December, overseeing the Division of Student Affairs between Ellen Taylor's retirement and the official state of, is it pronounced Ramondo?
Ramon.
Ramondo Nash? who will assume the permanent position, April what? So the Regents and I wish to extend our gratitude for your leadership and guidance during this interim period. Jenna is.
She's right there.
There you are.
She snuck behind you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
You bet. So,
Yes, absolutely. Jenna, please, take the mic.
Thank you very much. We have two revisions of our Washington Authority Code that we'd like to discuss. The first one being Washington Authority Code, or WAC 504-2430. This is our first year live-on requirement, and the proposal allows for us to clean up and clear up two things that we think are pretty significant that we've learned from and with feedback from our students and families. First is to update and clarify the rules of the definition of first year, which is really intent and impact with regard to a student moving from high school into college. And so oftentimes our students come with some credits for Money Start, for instance, and based on where and how the WAC is written at the moment, they could and do request exemption out of our first year requirement. We feel strongly that the impact of living on campus has a significance with regard to their persistence and recruitment and success to our services and support. And so we're looking at this request to move to clean up the language to identify in detail that it's for students who have recently graduated from high school, live in the residence halls, to reduce any of that connection requirement. The second portion of this WAC that we're asking for is to release some gender language within it. We have, instead of mother or father, we'd like to change that and clear it up for definitions of guardianship with regard to be a parent. There are other areas of guardianship besides parent where an individual could live within 40 miles and still live at home and be exempt from this first year requirement. And so those are the two parts of this proposal for this WAC.
terrific. Questions?
I'm really glad that you said that part of this action was in response to the feedback you were hearing. I'm just curious, how is that feedback coming to you? Is that by way of like emails or questions, and over what period?
Yeah. Part of my responsibility as the Dean of Students is we oversee all of the requests for appeals or exemptions to the policy. We call it the FLIR, First Year Living Environment. And so one of my associate deans oversees that process with a committee that reviews all of the requests for these appeals. And so that was the pathway certainly built to that we were noticing the interpretation of the policy with regard to specifically Running Start students coming. There's a definition here, 29 credits, so whether they have that marker or not. And so they were definitely see themselves as transfer students coming in. We identify and see them from high school to college, still at first year student coming in with credits from a college. So that's where we're getting the feedback with regard to the process.
Great, thank you.
What kind of reaction could you anticipate from this change, or would it be just under the radar?
It'd be under the radar.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a critical impact at all. And it is similar to other state institutions in Washington, for instance, Central Washington University. It's written almost identical.
All right, anything else regarding that? Yeah.
One quick question. I didn't catch this before. If we remove Pullman and we don't have residences on the other campuses, how does that work?
If
So the word Pullman's crossed out a few times here. That was my query.
yeah, I think when we do embark with residential communities within the university, besides Pullman, we should definitely be reviewing this WAC. Right now, we just have housing within Pullman.
So I guess my question is, does it need to say Pullman here still?
I do, because I think that each campus, when they do have a residential experience, I think they can and should define what that incoming student's experience could be based on where they're at. But it doesn't have to right now. It could be reviewed.
Sure.
Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Maybe I need to be more clear. Right now, the only campus that can provide the residence
Yes.
experience is Pullman.
Yes.
Do we need to leave Pullman in this code somewhere so that we're not saying, oh, I'm starting in Vancouver, I'm required to live in a residence hall, but there isn't one?
So the changes are eliminating
Right, the Pullman.
Pullman, and she's asking whether we should keep it in.
Yeah. We could take it out. That's what you're saying. I mean, it could be,
You're suggesting putting it, right?
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that we not cross out. Pullman.
Yeah. The only thing is in like in the Tri-Cities, we have a lot of, they're not residence halls per se, but there is residential living on this campus, and Vancouver is working toward it. So,
But you wouldn't require it, would you? Because you don't have enough. You can't require it, right?
yeah, I don't know, and I don't, so I think it's a little bit, yeah, I understand what you're saying as far as it wouldn't be required here, although Sandra may be here,
She's not.
but,
How about if we just take this into consideration and it's a future action item? We'll just make sure we have it cleared
Okay.
up by the time we get to the next meeting, I think.
And
This
it
is
might-
good feedback.
Might be rather than saying Pullman, saying where residence halls are available. Or-
May I just clarify, at the very beginning of the WAC code, it says housing requirements for single undergraduate students on residential campuses.
Oh, okay. There,
So
that's where it
because it
is.
says that, then everything that pertains after
Okay.
that.
Yep, I missed that. Thank you.
So maybe that helps.
It does. Clears it all up. Thank you.
There you go. Don't have to wait.
No, it's all good now. Now that I see that first line more clearly,
but I
my whole eyes.
yeah, I still want to say, what is a residential campus? Because do you call Tri-Cities a residential campus? Because we've got they're quasi-residence halls, because they can be occupied by people, outside of like the
Well,
freshman class.
we don't own them. The
Yeah.
ones here, they're independently operated. I mean, we got Kate and several other people here, but we don't have RAs. We don't have a residence life
Right,
component to it. It's more convenient housing adjacent to campus as opposed to the same sort of housing that we have at Pullman that's an integrated.
as long as all that's
experience.
understood and worked out, I mean, it's just, just trying to avoid confusion.
Therefore, you're saying we don't.
Yeah, the only campus that we currently have a residential experience on is Pullman.
and required.
Right.
Okay, moving on.
Well, thank you all for that. Okay, so for the next track is under our Center for Community Standards, which is one of the departments that I oversee as the Dean of Students. And we have 3 hearing boards: an Academic Integrity Hearing Board, a University Appeals Board, and a University Conduct Board. And so there are the proposed changes for this WAC is with regard to emergency rulemaking and regular rulemaking. So first and foremost, we are in a situation where our system is creating a backlog for hearings to take place. And the reason is the definition of quorum for these boards. It requires either 3 to 4 staff members and students to serve on these boards. The recruitment, the training, the process to get those members ready is a challenge. In addition, we also have to consider the time frame of a board to hear a case with a student, administrative law judges' schedules, and the account of the Office of Administrative Hearings with the state. And so to give you an example, and it's written in here, when this was written, we had a backlog of over 23 different cases with these 3 boards. And that has an impact on students for their persistence, because at times, sometimes it means they are paused and they cannot persist with courses until this board plays. So recognizing the problem and understanding what our policy is, this proposal addresses that. Our goal will always be to have as many members on a board, but this allows for us to persist and keep these hearings going with at least one person to hear those cases. Our system is also built, aside from boards, with conduct officers. So we do work where it's just one person making decisions. This allows for us and gives us the flexibility that we need to get these going. So the emergency rule allows for this, a smaller number of people for quorum for the University Conduct Board case. And the regular rule making is for us, the filing a proposed change to allow for a smaller number of people for quorum for the University Conduct Board and the academic integrity. To give you just a sample, one case for an academic integrity we've had just involves 70 students. So if you can imagine what kind of system we need to build or to respond to that kind of report, creates this. And I think particularly with academic integrity, it can continue because of what's happening with artificial intelligence and some other areas. So this gives us the flexibility that we need. So this is your
Questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. I really appreciate Jenna's attention to this, and we are looking at our general standard of conduct for students in terms of the academic honesty area to make sure that the faculty are being trained, not only what our policies are, but what the procedures are, because we are seeing that there are, let's just say, a few faculty that seem to have occurring large numbers of students that they're reporting this. And so the question is, are there ways to remake some of the assignments to prevent academic dishonesty? What exactly is going on? So that's just a little context to say we are seeing a bit of an increase, and it could be AI related, it could be faculty training related, but Jenna's office and the provost's office are working on making sure we understand what's going on and provide resources.
So what's the average length of time between a complaint and the actual trial, if you will? Or-
average right now,
Yeah.
because we aren't able to make quorum,
Yeah.
we are a year and a half behind. This is a serious issue. We have cases from a year ago fall. We have people waiting, and we'll have cases that we will stack up, ready to go. And if the chair of that board does not show up, it has to be rescheduled. If, remember, we don't get quorum, it has to be rescheduled. And we just don't have the influx of board members to make the schedules. And again, because of the administrative law judges, there's some of the scheduling are outside of our control of the institution, right? So it's a problem.
Do you have a best guess how that would move it forward to?
Our hope would be we would do it within the same semester or within the elbow of the next semester so that there can be persistence and really reconciliation. The whole goal of our whole process is to help stop and say, time out, hey student, let's talk about this. These are the expectations we have. There's accountability. Let's figure and suss this out with the facts. And in our process, when it comes to the board, involves our AGO office. It involves representation for the institution to administer these types of boards, whereas conduct officers will do that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any questions? Yes.
So the changes will maybe address throughput more timely. What's going to happen to the backlog? Do you think that backlog will diminish?
We hope so.
Yeah.
Soon?
Yes, yeah, and these, this I understand would go into effect, I think we said fall of 24. So we're working on it. We have a pretty aggressive campaign, right, that we started in January to increase the number of members for faculty, staff, and student representation. We actually even are looking at a process to fund to the students that serve on that board. We give them a letter of recommendation. We really make it enticing to be able to serve in that capacity. It's a big deal. So we're doing everything we can right now. We have been, and this was another part of the system that we feel like if we keep going the way we're going and not address this, we're gonna have the same problem, so.
Great. Thank you.
Jen, I just wanted to ask, for the undergraduate housing requirement, is there a time-sensitive piece of that for recruiting for the fall?
It would be ideal if it could be before contracts and 1st of June.
Oh, so April is is fine. I just want to add my thanks to you for serving as the interim vice chancellor for student affairs, as well as pretty much continuing to serve as the dean of students, a position that she is going to revert back to, and we're very grateful that you'll continue. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. All right, so those will be on the agenda for Spokane next month. And we move to an action item to a new section, establish a Masters of Energy Conscious Construction degree for the Pullman and local campuses, which was brought up in Seattle in January.
Yes, it was.
Yes, please.
So yes, this should look familiar to you. We discussed this in January as a future action item. And the only change that was made to what you have before you is that we updated it in response to Regent Dickinson's query about the fact that this would be located in the School of Design and Construction. So we clarified that in the proposal. So I appreciate your question. That is the only change. Otherwise, remains unchanged. And this would be for both the Pullman and the global campuses. And I know Chancellor Soleil is here if there are any questions on the global campus side of this proposal.
Any questions? Do we take action on that tomorrow?
That's right. That's
So do that, okay? So thank you for that, and thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank
last
you.
month. Yep.
Appreciate it.
So we have one information item, and Ms. Chilton, this is regarding presidential delegated authority.
So there are two categories of items approved under by the presidential's delegated authority. One is a degree extension. This is to extend the Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Media Production degree to the WSU Global Campus. Really, if there is any degree that should be extended to the global campus, I think media production ranks very high. Students who take advantage of the direct transfer agreements and would be able to transfer from two-year programs into the global campus. Chancellor Soleil is also here to talk about what it would mean to extend to the global campus, but you do have the full proposal before you. The goals of the degree are to demonstrate knowledge of communications concepts and issues, acquire, analyze information, think critically about the role of media, and create communication projects in writing, visual, and speaking to address communications objectives. So really relevant degree for where we are in the 21st century. And so the proposal, we maintain delegated authority once a degree is established to extend it to which campuses might benefit from this. So but happy to answer any questions about the motivation behind extending this to the global campus. And I'll call on Dave if I don't have the answer.
Questions? Yeah.
I'm curious about what your expected demand might be in the near term as you extend this into global. Is there any sense of that?
Yeah, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, otherwise you can't hear.
when we're looking at new degree programs, we run it through our market research group to look at competition, where our price point is, and then job demand. I'm pulling numbers off the top of my head, but I think they're projecting about 11% increase in jobs in media journalism nationwide. And I think there's expected a new 3,600 jobs in the state of Washington. So we think we're really going to have a lot of interest in the degree program, and launching it online allows us opportunities for our students to get access to companies and experiences on the west side of the state. So we think that's going to be an important factor in the Regents degree as well.
Where did you come up with the stats that it's going to increase?
I would have to ask my market research person, but usually it's like national labor statistics is what she looks at. We work through a company, it's not called Brain Glass anymore, but they do job projections on different occupations. But I can get that information.
I'm just curious.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I am too now.
Yeah, well, I only bring that up because, local journalism is really challenged.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that they project that to be a growth industry.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is digital.
Yeah.
Just maybe what I've heard when I'm out and about talking to students is everyone aspires to be an influencer, right? And this just takes it up a notch, like get a degree on, the top 10 global campuses in all the United States. Do it here, right? And so just trying to sing your praises of a global campus.
I like
at the
that.
same time as being hip with the language on be the influencer, but you have a degree.
Yeah. Well, part of the research that they've done is looking at the jobs that were identified. I don't remember the percentage, but almost all of them require a bachelor's degree to enter into the field. So we think this will be good for students and for WSU as well.
So right now, just to clarify, it's also offered on the Pullman campuses. This would be largely the same faculty
Yes.
teaching in the global environment, but same quality of degree, the same faculty, same process for curriculum development.
Absolutely.
And I should also have said that the faculty senate approved the degree extension on February 5th as well. So this has gone through that process.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Any other business for the committee? Right, that concludes our committee.
I'm sorry, there was one other category of delegated authority
Okay.
items. Apologies. These are faculty manual revisions, which are the purview of the faculty senate. And there are two categories that were updated. You have the full red line version in your packets, but I'll just highlight what the two major changes are. I will turn to Regent McDonald if I leave out any pertinent information. But the first set of changes related to faculty categories. So the Faculty Senate Faculty Affairs Committee was contacted by the libraries with a request to examine and potentially update the verbiage about library faculty. And this came in part because of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which requires WSU to determine if an employee is overtime exempt or not based on whether they are teaching. And a number of our faculty, in fact, our library faculty, in fact, do teach, have substantial teaching obligations. And so we asked them to make sure that the faculty manual, or the request was to make sure that the faculty manual reflected what librarians actually do. So the verbiage was added to the respective faculty category to include academic faculty, extension faculty, library faculty, et cetera, to accurately articulate the various obligations that they have under those positions. So that's what you find for the library faculty. And then in addition, the other changes to the faculty manual pertain to who could serve as graduate faculty if they were in a short-term role. So if you have an adjunct faculty member, who decides whether or not that person can teach graduate students? And just to clarify what the roles and responsibilities were. And so the subsequent faculty manual revisions clarified that the programs bylaws, the programs bylaws, the graduate policies and procedures, and the vice provost for graduate and professional education should determine the appropriate roles in graduate education for each individual, looking at their credentials, looking at their ability to mentor and or teach graduate students. And so the faculty manual red line version, there's red line added verbiage that clarifies the process for appointing faculty to our graduate instruction. And these were passed by the faculty senate on February 1st. These changes to the faculty.
Comments or questions? That's it for informational. Okay,
Thank you.
so that completes our academic and student affairs committee agenda. Back to you, Chair Shao.
Well done, Regent Pika. We are 20 minutes ahead of
Oh,
schedule.
I did. I think.
Look at you. So this is the way in which we're going to move for the rest of the day.
Set the tone.
That's right. All right, so we were set to take a break at 11:45 and to resume in this room at 1 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll be back together 1 p.m. Where we will start the Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee meeting chaired by Regent Shetler. All right, well, thank you.